There's no point in saying good morning because it certainly is not one.
It certainly is not a good morning at IHIP News. Listener and viewer, the unthinkable has happened. Former President Trump, convicted felon, grew his support, and the Democrats flatlined out.
It was shocking, devastating, terrifying all at the same time. I couldn't believe my eyes when I was looking. And to think that he's going to win the popular vote is jaw-dropping. And I just look at it and I think, so hate and division and anger and rage and cruelty is what the American people want. And they sent a clear message about what they want.
Not all. I think that you have still
You're right,
a pretty razor thin margin. And there's tens of millions of us that care about this country, that care about democracy, that fight passionately for marginalized groups, and that fight passionately for progress. In 2016, I knew a Trump presidency was going to be bad, but I knew that there were guardrails, and I knew that in 4 years we would have another election. His presidency backfired spectacularly. I mean, he completely mismanaged the pandemic. People were dying and in refrigerated trucks outside hospitals. The economy was starting to tank. They did not know shit from Shinola. Now, I can't say with certainty that I know that American democracy is going to hold up, because they are celebrating big time in Russia.
Absolutely.
And I think what we're seeing as everybody does all of the autopsies on this, one of the first things I'm going to say is we have fallen prey to 10 years of psychological warfare from Russian propaganda that started in 2015. And Putin, his goal was to turn the American public against each other to defeat us, not with bombs, but exactly what is happening right now. And it's been a decade-long war that he's celebrating right now that he won. And it's terrifying as an American when you've studied history with the security of living in a democracy to go from now we're living in history with the insecurity of a very precarious democracy. And I keep thinking about Trump's closing message. And the message that I got was immigrants, we're going to round them up. We're going to do tariffs. And then he really started beating the drum of the enemy from within.
Yep.
And that part right there is the most terrifying part, to know that we have a president that is not for every American.
Not only is he not for every American, he has said he wants to use military against his political enemies. And so as I sit back and look at it, I'm with you. In 2016, it's like, okay, 4 years, we can survive. We have the ability to do that. I don't know that we'll have another election in 4 years. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, my worst fears, like, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. That was it. I'm going to get rid of the Constitution. You look at Project 2025, consolidating power. You look at, he's probably going to get to appoint 2 more Supreme Court justices. So if you look into that and you take him at his word, which I do, where are we going to be in 4 years?
It's also, this man is 78 years old, and the last month of his campaign has shown severe signs of being rather senile and not with it, and very, very consumed with grievances. Immediately he's going to fire Jack Smith. Immediately he's going to pardon all of the January 6th insurrectionists. The way that we that we have been governed, whether it is a Republican or a Democrat. They were splitting hairs because the democracy held, the power paradigm shifted a little bit center right, a little bit center left. This will go, and this is a center right election result. It's still center because it's not a landslide, but this will go far right.
Yes.
And they have said so. Trump in 2016 campaigned that he wanted to nominate justices that would overturn Roe. He did it. He victory laps on it. I think one of the most devastating things about this is prior to Roe being overturned, I knew that there was a lot of sexism in this country, but I have always been a career woman. I've always been a working mom, and I was able to forge through because so many strong women fought that battle before me so that I could come and have an interior design firm, start a podcast, and freely speak. What saddens me the most is the amount of returned sexism, the regressive nature of his victory. But what kills me and what breaks my heart into a million pieces are the members of the LGBTQ plus community, the trans community, minority communities. And I know that he made gains, with Latinos. If Kamala would have won, I wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, suck it, Latinos that shifted for Trump. I'd be like, I'm glad you're safe.
Right.
If Kamala would have won and rural schools still had a Department of Education, I wouldn't have been like, suck it, you rubes. I'm like, hopefully you'll learn because your education is safe. They are going to dismantle and abolish the Department of Education. The list of fuckery that's going to start in January is going to be mind-boggling. This is something that we have never seen. And I just go back to when our enemies are celebrating his victory. This is a very, very dangerous situation with worldwide ripple effects that are devastating. Pumps, I love the fall because I love snuggling up in cashmere sweaters, but cashmere can be kind of expensive. That's why I'm so grateful that we've discovered Quince. You can get a Mongolian cashmere sweater for $50.
Quince has such great quality products. I love the leather jacket I got from there, and the denim is like super soft.
And what I like most about Quince is all the items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. How are they able to do that, you might ask? They partner directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and, of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/IHIPnews for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/IHIPnews to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/IHIPnews.
As devastating as it is for us, I thought of Ukraine. I thought of NATO. I mean, Americans are going to suffer, but they're not the only country that's going to suffer. The NATO countries are going to suffer. Ukraine, he's probably going to offer that up to Putin. And the only solace that I take in this is that my great-grandchildren will know I was on the right side of history. Hopefully there's still history then.
Yeah, you see that, Hitler was elected.
Yeah.
And you see that these things happen. And again, I go back to my earlier point that I was able to study these things with the security of living in a somewhat healthy democracy. Now we're living in that in a very precarious democracy at best. And Project 2025 is licking their chops.
Yes.
And you have a 40-year-old Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, who is surrounded by oligarchs. And the saddest thing about this is a lot of these people in rural America that voted for this are going to feel it the most when the Department of Education is completely dismantled, when they need to access health care. when somebody needs a life-saving DNC. It is the poorest members of this country are going to suffer. There's no chance that minimum wage will ever be raised. Any sort of life-saving regulations that acted as a guardrail to reckless corporate practices, all of those regulations will be removed. This is what happens when societies value capitalism over everything else. And I think a safer, more sustainable approach is when you value collectivism. But I do want to leave you all with this. I'm the mother of 2 sons, and all of us that voted for democracy and voted for decency and voted for marginalized people, though our vote might not have impacted the results of this race, what you do in your home can, and the messaging that you send your children can. And my children know the biggest takeaway from our family of origin is that we stand up for the most marginalized members of this country. That is a value that I want to instill in my children. I don't want to dangle, tax stuff and all of these things. I want to say at the end of the day, where were you when people were suffering? And I'm an atheist, and this is my worldview. Most of the Christians that I know value a tax break over the well-being of human beings, and they tend to thumb their nose at human suffering. And we can make micro impact generationally by making sure that your children are good people that leave the nest with a strong moral compass to fight for marginalized people. And I hope that there is an election in 4 years, because it will, no question, if we do have an election and it is free and fair. And I believe that we do, because our elections are so highly localized. I believe they are free and fair. Hopefully it does shift back, and America can take a really sharp turn back to center-left politics, where we fight for the rights of everybody and not just white men and white women in particular. I'm incredibly disappointed that so many women fought so hard for our right to vote. It was recently, just 50 years ago, that women could get a credit card in their own name without their husband's signature. Only 50 years. And I hope the suffering that this administration is going to unleash, I hope that there are some mitigating factors in there somewhere. But I'm a pragmatist and I'm a realist, and he has his enemies list. He is very emboldened, and he believes one of the biggest threats in America are people that disagree with him.
That's right.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
It's so